Hello, everybody. This is Anthony Bjorn from Mission Star Podcast. We are back live from watching a lot of E3, and one conference went on a bit longer than it should, honestly. But with me today to talk about everything in the past two press conferences we just seen, we have Greg Dietz
Hi, I'm tired.
and we have Alex.
He thinks he's tired. I've been up since 0400.
Yes,
All right, fair enough.
we're all pretty tired at this point. So I'm gonna work backwards to the previous press conference we just witnessed. So we just watched the Ubisoft press conference that happened for about 2 hours. It went longer than it should. And the things that were shown in that press conference, I definitely have some notes on it, but there were definitely segments where they take a lot more time to really emphasize on the game. So let's start from the top. Okay, so it wouldn't be a Ubisoft press conference unless there was some sort of dancing in it in some sort of fashion. So it started off with the Just Dance. You had people in just like in circus outfits. You got a guy in a giraffe suit. You got an elephant man. Like it was just straight up like, okay, this is Ubisoft.
I kind of wanted to tweet out immediately. Was like, "Whoa, Ubisoft! It is not. There's not enough alcohol for me to handle this right now."
Yeah, it was weird. It was funny, but then it's kind of how Ubisoft goes. So everybody's dancing. It's basically just a big promotion of Just Dance. Apparently, what was announced or kind of was confirmed is that this is going to be an official NX game for NX. So they didn't really show anything in terms of like what the actual game looks like, but if anything, it'll be like just other dance games of like a silhouette of like a person dancing, you matching up the moves. So there isn't much to it. But yeah, it started up that way. Then everybody stopped because Alicia Taylor came out, who was going to host a press conference yet again. And that's when things started to move forward.
Yeah, one thing she did do though, right after that I was just kind of like, "Oh my God, Aisha, drop it! It's never gonna catch. It's never gonna hook. Girlwood is not fucking cool. Knock it off."
Yeah, she does it every damn year too. Like, look, come on.
Luckily, that was
We
the
know
only.
for guys the sound effect is boing. For the girls, it's sploosh. Come on.
Yeah, yeah.
What doesn't go sploosh?
The thing though too, I didn't realize until somebody pointed out to me on Twitter. She was wearing a gold necklace with Girlwood on it, and until somebody pointed it out to me, it's like,
Oh,
oh,
I didn't notice that.
yeah.
I know that. I know that whatever shirt she was wearing underneath, if her shirt was closed just right, it said "ass train."
Didn't
So
she wear a shirt that said Girlwood one year?
yes,
So I mean,
hashtag Girlwood. Just to
yeah.
clarify.
Yeah,
Are,
yeah.
are we even really surprised at this point when she brings out the Girlwood? It's boring. It's old. It's contrived. She's done it a billion times.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
I will say though, she was a bit more loose this time around. Like she like just went for it and threw the punches out there for her jokes, and it actually wasn't that bad. But it's the usual spiel of every year she hosts.
I'll say this though, she had a lot of jokes about herself. Like she referred to herself as vaguely mannish or vaguely masculine.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, don't get me wrong, she's a very pretty lady.
she is.
Like,
She is.
okay, yeah, maybe she has a little bit of masculinity, quote unquote, because she's tall, but maybe it's because I'm a tall guy. I don't find that she's very masculine.
Yeah, nor do I. I think
don't
maybe.
either.
Yeah, I mean, it's the whole like make yourself make a joke about
Make the
yourself.
jokes before the internet can.
Yeah, yeah, or just like head just state the obvious or something like that. But I digress. So the one of the first official game, not to say Just Dance isn't, that they showed off was the game they showed off last year as the Ender was Ghost Recon Wildlands, which is you are a group of 4 people and you are out to hunt this man for cocaine. And it takes from the looks of it, it definitely it's a Ghost Recon game in the sense that everybody's working together. The one thing that gets me every time they do every one of these type of demos is the fact that the people that talk in the game, that is not how it's going to sound like at all.
You know what they sounded like to me?
Hmm.
It sounded like a group of guys who take like Battlefield 2 seriously.
Yeah.
Okay. To be fair, I've been in games with some of my buddies where that is how we talk. Not that exact way, but very similar to it. But to put a little clarification on that, I also have been playing with a bunch of current or ex-military guys. So it is something that can happen. But you're right, the average gamer is not going to have that kind of experience.
Well, a lot of the times stuff like this isn't meant to replicate how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, it's supposed to put you like into the immersion, right?
Yeah, like to me, it just felt like that these guys themselves were talking, not the people playing them, and it felt like to a point that they were maybe trying to make it look like that these characters, because like there were times where they were whispering. What's the point of whispering if you're over a mic? You know, like
yeah, that's
so.
I disagree with that. They could have actually put it in so that your voice is a proximity in the game.
They could have, but I doubt it. I doubt that.
I doubt it, but without more details, we can't be 100% sure. So I kind of want to leave that door like cracked just a little bit, because that would be a really cool thing to have, right?
Yeah, I would. It would definitely be a cool thing to have. It's just rather like they didn't really tell him any more information about it, other than the fact that these guys are working together to complete this.
Yeah, it didn't come off to me as guys over mics playing. It came off to me as these particular characters were communicating in this fashion. There were just a lot of moments that didn't seem like it was guys talking over a mic necessarily, or talking over Xbox Live or whatever, or PlayStation Network, whatever the fuck they're playing on.
Yeah.
Fuck you. We all know it was an Xbox.
More than likely. But the idea itself was fine. The issue I take with the game is that it's like, and this is kind of something that these tech demos or gameplay demos kind of show is, the four guys playing knew what they needed to do to a T. It was scripted. They had a plan and everything to make it look as cool. And honestly, because it was just on screen. There was no one on stage. It was probably rehearsed like a gazillion times, like as if it were meant to be on stage.
Let me jump in there for a minute and let me let you in. But let me pull away the curtain for a little bit. A lot of those demos are actually QA players within the company that they are considered the best QA players that they have, and they're asked to record these things. So these are definitely pre-recorded. Unless you actually see the player sitting there, and even then, question it a little bit. But unless you see them physically on stage playing the game, it's a pre-recorded game. There's nobody in the back, most likely, playing the game as they go, especially if it's 4 people at once, and they're jumping between different views like that.
Yeah.
Well, and that's more so, like, I'm only mentioning that because that's more so as into why I'm saying that it wasn't guys talking over a series of headsets. It was supposed to be the in-game conversation, or at least representative of the in-game conversation.
Yeah.
And I think that if that's the case, then that's cool. But, and this is the big thing I like to point out, when it comes to an open world game as such, the coordination needed to kind of accomplish playing with 4 other people is going to be kind of big. And then on top of that, it seemed like at one point, like the guy gets into a helicopter and it says switch from passenger to driver. So it seemed like you could switch players on the fly, like not players but characters on the fly as well.
Well, I mean that was the co-op. I think, and just a theory. I think what it was actually would be allowing you to do is switch with somebody else that was in there. So like, because it's a 2-seater up front, so you could switch back and forth. And most helicopters, if you don't know, if you've never seen one, actually have sticks on both sides, so either person can control. So I think it's just a way of handing off control to somebody else if you want to.
That's possible, but in that vein, because what it showed exactly was the guy shows up in a helicopter. Like one guy goes into a house and he's taking out guys left and right, and um, we need to head over to this location to get this guy. And he goes, okay, cool. Are you um
Are you
sorry,
out front with a truck or something like that?
no, my nephew decided to throw cards in while I'm talking and distract me. He shows up with a helicopter. And so the guy was like, all right, let's go. And he sits on the side. And as he sits on the side, the camera changes to the driver's perspective. And he takes off, right? And it starts to fly. And at the bottom of the screen, it said, like, press X to change passenger. Change to passenger.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of it being to the extent of, like you're saying, how, like, the character himself would get up and then move into the cockpit or something like that. So what I'm saying is that to me it looked like if you're playing by yourself, you don't just go into areas by yourself. You go into areas with like 3 other AI characters.
Yeah,
And
well,
you're
I
able
mean
to switch
that
them.
is very traditional of that gameplay. Ghost Recon's always been like a team oriented. So even when you're solo, you're still with a team.
Yeah, and I'm not that's cool. That's not what I'm
Yeah.
concerned with.
No, I get what you're saying. Yeah. So I mean, it definitely would make sense. I just find it kind of weird that they would hold that over for a co-op side. You know?
What do you mean?
So I mean, it would make sense if I'm going in with just a bunch of AI and I get in the passenger seat and let's say I want to take over flying, or I don't like the actual flying of it and I want the AI to take over, passing it off to them or something like that, so that I switch characters to the person actually flying the helicopter or the person actually in the passenger seat, whichever I happen to be on. With an AI, that makes sense because they can pick it up right away. Whereas holding it over for the co-op is I'm literally putting my life in the hands of this other person, hoping that they're paying enough attention to realize they are now in control of this.
Yeah. No, I completely. And that's why I was saying that I feel like that the beginning of the trailer or the tech demo they're showing, not even tech demo. I don't know why I keep saying tech demo. Of the level that they were playing, it felt like it started in like single player and then kind of transitioned into multiplayer.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I think the whole thing was just a representative of what they want the game to feel like while you're playing.
Mm-hmm.
And like I was saying, is that my thing about the game, and this is something I have with all open world games, is like how is it going to play on a mission based situation? Like they had already kind of like gotten to the area and they had parked away from it, like with a helicopter, and they were running up to it as they landed. As it being a Ghost Recon game, the idea is for stealth. That's the whole point. So, like, am I going to fail a bunch of times by not being stealthy? Is it going to be a situation where if I drive too close, it's like, oh, you got too close, and everyone's triggered. It's that, like, I just don't know how an open world stealth game is going to work.
Well, I'd hope, this is a hope, that they don't just trigger because you drove by. But if you say go through the gate and they look at your character and go like, oh, okay, that's not one of us, that's when you trigger them. I'd hope there would be enough intelligence built into the AI to be able to make that distinction.
Yeah, I guess so. It seemed too easy for the video that we watched.
Yeah.
For them because they knew where to go.
Yeah.
And yeah. I would rather have I would rather have the game kind of do this thing where it's like mission briefing. Here are the locations in which you can park or fly to that won't activate them. Like that's what I'd like to see.
Mm-hmm. And in due time, I think we'll definitely find out like what exactly what this game is going to evolve into. The closer we get to the release date. They did have a release date actually for this game. It's March 7th of 2017. This game is going to be released. So we'll have to see more information as it comes out, as it comes closer to the release date for sure. The next game that they showed off at the press conference, and it was funny and it was great, but I feel like it went on a bit too long, was the South Park game. It was
I could have had a whole hour of that.
yeah, like South Park and the Fractured Butthole. So
Well,
the thing about the South Park game is that they brought out, you know, the creators of South Park. They had an interview or a kind of impromptu interview, and they talked about the game and just like, you know, where it's at the moment and so on and so on. And they show some gameplay. They show a couple scenes from the game, the comedy specifically, and then have like a few moments of like gameplay they showed. I loved the Stick of Truth. I think Stick of Truth was a really fun game, and it seems to be kind of, you know, going off of those coattails and using it in a kind of different way in this game.
Well, they have to. I mean, if you look at every other, and this is coming from the perspective of a huge South Park fan. I have been a fan since it started way back in the day. I grew up with it. It grew up with me, with my sensibilities, my humor, my comedy. It has never been boring to me, but I have been, you know, I have noticed as I've gotten older, as my tastes change, so do the comedy stylings of South Park. You know, you go back and you watch the first couple seasons, it's totally juvenile. But as, like, if you watch now, it's less juvenile and more pointing a mirror at society. With the first South Park game, the whole idea was to bring you into South Park, and the jokes that they wanted to throw out there were as absurd as they could possibly get because they know it's a video game. And one of my favorite things, the genius things I found about Stick of Truth was that the combat system was just a turn-based RPG. This basically was both a brilliant and a parody at the same time of where, like, because the whole game, like, all the kids that are playing along with this giant thing are in a fantasy realm, a la Final Fantasy, Lord of the Rings. So the gameplay to be turn-based is fucking brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
So when they had announced that Fractured Butthole was going to happen, I was like, well, how are they gonna do this with the combat? Is it going to be action orientated? Am I going to hit levels and have to just like is it going to be like a Streets of Rage sort of thing?
Right.
And it turns out no, they're actually going a completely different route that I love, and it's tactic. It's a tactic turn-based RPG.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm pulling my nerd credit out here, but I mean, I've been a D&D player for a long time. I played throughout high school and even after high school for quite some time, but I love the fact that they specifically mentioned that they went back to like 4.0. For those who don't know, saying that they went to 4.0 is saying they went to D&D 4.0 for inspiration. And it really shows in the gameplay, in the combat that they showed, where like you can move X amount of squares, because that's how it is in 4.0. You can use cover, you can push, you can pull, things like that, all are incorporated into 4.0, and look like they translate really well into like that turn-based strategy combat.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, like, you look at the other South Park games. Oh my god, Joey, shut up! Sorry about that, guys. Can one of you guys get him and shut him up, please? Jesus Christ, just stand there and stare at him. Another reason why I hate doing this here. Anyway, I forgot where I was going with this. I totally did. Oh, the other South Park games. You know, you look at past South Park games, and none of them really encompassed none of them encompassed the show, like, ever. You know, you had the one on the 64, which was a first-person shooter. That doesn't make any sense to the show. You have one that's like it was a trivia game with what's his name? Chef.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I remember playing it on the Dreamcast. And even the most recent game before these two stellar games, there was a side-scroller one where you play as Coon and Friends, and it wasn't a good game. It was. I mean, it played all right, but it just wasn't a good game because to me, the thing that shines in South Park is the comedy.
Yes, agreed. That's the strong points about this series or the games. Really, is the comedy.
And that's why Stick of Truth and Fractured But Whole, like, they shine through and they're so good, is because they encompassed and kind of brought that comedy with them.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I definitely agree too, like, with what you're saying earlier with the comedy style. Like, I grew up sneaking chances to watch South Park because I wasn't allowed to watch it, growing up because my mom didn't want me to. Still managed to do it over at friends' houses, like I'm sure every kid will. But I agree. Like, you can see how it went from being completely juvenile to being these super intricate jokes where if you don't understand what's going on in the world and in the country, you're kind of missing a little bit. And honestly, I think that they're going to kind of push those into the game, just not as heavily, because these games are for kids as well. Like, I mean, they don't want just the adults to play, just the adults to enjoy it. They want to have everybody coming together and kind of playing it, enjoying it.
right.
Obviously, not so much the kids because, well, they swear and they make dirty jokes, things like that. But
Yeah.
let's be honest, if we're going to have kids playing Call of Duty, we're going to see kids playing this game as well. So we might as well have things in there that are more like the lowbrow jokes that are just the potty humor that even the kids are going to get.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Agreed. But yeah, they showed off the South Park game. Spent a lot of time with it, and definitely, if anything, like showed off that this game is pretty well underway, and that did they announce a release date for this, or is it coming soon? Is what
Stick of Truth will be 12/6/2016.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no, sorry,
Yeah.
not Stick of Truth. Fractured Butthole.
Yeah.
Sorry, my bad.
Yeah, I was like February
Chat at the
sometime.
same time, and I saw somebody mention Stick of Truth there.
Awesome. Okay, so we'll definitely see it in no time. The next game they showed off was DLC for The Division called Survival.
It wasn't DLC; it was expansions for it. There's a
Right.
difference.
For what again?
For the Division.
Yeah, so they have 2 expansions coming out for it. There's going to be Underground, which is going to launch on June 28th for Xbox and PC, and then August 2nd for the PlayStation, and then Survival with no official release date.
It's cool that they're coming out with expansions for that game, but if I could give them some advice, less concentrating on expansions and more concentrating on making the game not broken.
Well, I feel like that might be what they try to do with the expansions. If they are actually listening to their fans like they claim to be, there's no way they can miss the fact that people are not happy with what they're seeing.
Agreed.
You just can't. You'd have to be fucking blind to miss the signs. I mean, they made records in sales when they first came out with the game, and now when you look at the player base, it's so small, you can't. There's no way to misinterpret that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks for the follow. I forgot to turn that off. I was gonna say, yeah, like last I heard about that game, like people were not really happy about the game, and like I remember reading some post somewhere that 90% of the people who originally bought the game or was into it, like end up leaving because there was so many problems.
From my perspective, I was in when I was in North Carolina, I needed something to kind of take up my time, and I had money to spare, so I bought Division, and I played it and put a lot of time into it while I was there, a good 40 hours, and when I came home, I no longer had the desire to play it. And to me, Division served its purpose to the extent of making me not bored. That being said, the Division actually did something that was quite clever in terms of gameplay for gameplay that wasn't just story. It tried to be what Destiny is, and do the whole like it's a pseudo MMORPG, and I feel that like what they were trying to do worked to a point, but at the end of the day, when your whole purpose after you get everything done, let's say you've beaten every mission, you've gone through the city, you've collected everything, you've done all the like little side missions, all that kind of shit. The last thing that you can do, other than wait for DLC, or expansion, whatever terminology you want to use, doesn't really matter. I don't hate either one. Is the Dark Zone. And the Dark Zone is one of the dumbest ideas I've ever seen implemented into a game. It is frustrating and not fun. And that was their end game. That was their whole multiplayer thing. It to me didn't make any sense. And then on top of that, like people who were trying to actually like build up their character to even go into the Dark Zone were getting boned because all of a sudden their character would be deleted, or they'd have to start over, or their character would be glitched because they tried to buy a piece of armor. To me, I get frustrated and don't want to continue playing a game when I die too much. For fuck's sake, if my character was deleted, I just would have stopped entirely.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
and that was another reason why I stopped entirely, was because I was like, there seems to be a lot of problems, and I don't want that to just straight up go away. So I totally understand people stopping playing the game and not wanting to go back and telling Ubisoft, like, if you get to make Division 2, let's not make it a piece of shit. Because another thing about Ubisoft that's important to kind of keep in mind, especially when it comes to stuff like Division, their servers are shit.
Yeah.
Constant shit.
Yeah.
So it was just like there's a reason why people left Division. It wasn't because it was boring. It's because it was broken. Like, and one of the things I commended the Division on was their story. I thought that the world they built was really clever and cool, but
Honestly, I think part of the issue was that while they built a really cool world, I agree with you. Like, the idea behind it is really cool, which is one of the reasons why, by the way, in case you haven't heard the news, the Division movie, I think, is going to be really cool. I personally think it would do better as a TV show, like a high-end
Netflix
TV show.
Mm-hmm.
But a movie will be really cool, too.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we'll transition into that later, but that's a discussion for a different time.
Right.
I feel like while the world was really cool, it wasn't cool enough to bring people and keep people there with the content they were delivering and the style of content they were giving. When you have, the same thing over and over and over again, and you're just grinding it out, there was no end game for, how many, like a month and a half, something like that after release.
Yeah. There was a
yeah, that's really bad.
And
Yeah.
when they did release endgame content, because let's be honest, the Dark Zone's not endgame content. That's like your filler before the endgame content.
Yeah.
The endgame content was just, well, we're just going to throw waves of enemies at you, and that's it. And that's a really shitty version of endgame content.
Right. It is, and it's just a band-aid as far as like what they're doing, and to make more content. It's almost like what the early problems of Destiny was for a while. There wasn't that much content at the beginning of the game, and we had to wait for another couple months to get more content. And the game still struggles in that area. So, yeah, like the Division needs a lot of work, and whether that's going to be addressed in the next, internet or not internet, the next
If it will be addressed in the next version of the internet. Stay tuned, folks.
Yes. With the wait and see. I mean, it's not in a good place, but somehow, like, if they're committing to expansion to the Division at this point, either A, they kind of already dive right into their franchise into that, or B, they made enough money in order to fuel that to make that expansion happen. So either or, we'll definitely see what happens in the next couple months to a year. Possibly may get better. Who knows? But the Division.
Yeah, I really enjoyed what I played, and I'm glad that I got a chance to play it. I don't regret a second of it. Like people will sit there and say, it's not worth buying these DLC if the game's going to be broken. And sure, that's totally understandable. But also at the end of the day, that shit's not for you then. Like that's at that, and I know that sounds like hyperbole, but that's the truth. Like, if you aren't interested in continuing playing right now, then don't spend fucking $30-$40 on DLC that you are just kind of on the fence about playing.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Now, I kind of want to flip that around a little bit, and if you bought the season pass like I did, because I've been excited for this game since they showed it, 3 years ago now? Something like that?
Yeah.
I was super excited for the game. It looked awesome. The concept was amazing. I was super stoked for it. So I had the season pass. I get the expansions. If you're in that situation like me where you're going to be getting the expansions anyways, I strongly urge you to give it another chance if you're already going to have that content, because you never know. They might fix the server issues, the gameplay issues that I personally experienced, where I just felt like I was grinding it out and it's boring as hell. That might get fixed. So there's a good chance that you might come back and you might enjoy the game.
Yep.
Honestly, from my perspective, I didn't disenjoy the game. The only thing I didn't like about the game was the Dark Zone. I thought it was fucking retarded. It mainly because you did either of you play Division?
My brother,
Yeah.
he plays a lot of it, and he came away after a good amount of time just really mad at how the servers are right now, and how people are kind of cheating, and to really put a foul what's the word looking for, and put a bad taste in his mouth. So he stopped playing for a bit.
What about you, Alex?
I was one of those people that I hit max level within the first week and a half, 2 weeks, something like that. And then I was just sitting there going like, okay, what do I do now? And then I had realized that I just had to grind out gear in the the challenge modes and in the Dark Zone.
So, the reason that, for me, the Dark Zone was a really bad idea was that the intended purpose was to go in, kill a really tough AI and get equipment, and then send it out and then try to get it again. The problem that came from that was, hey, if camera's kind of there we go. Hey, if I go into the Dark Zone and I go, you know what, I'm just gonna grind a little bit and take out some bad guys with some friends. Okay, cool. We're waiting for the drop zone. Oh crap! A group of 6 just show up and kill us all and take our stuff. So all that grinding I did didn't matter.
Yeah.
That to me isn't fun. That to me is the exact opposite of fun. And now they've even added an update where you can cut the rope before the helicopter takes off.
It's kind of fucked up.
It's absolutely fucked up.
Wait, time out. That's a thing now? You can actually cut the rope off of it?
Yep.
Okay, see, I kind of want to go back because I got bored, so I was that dick that waited for people to try and extract, killed them, took their stuff. I'm not going to lie. I was that asshole. And it was even better when I could take out an entire group, take all of their stuff, and just load everything onto the chopper. But the idea that I can actually go in there, let them load up, then run in, cut their shit off, and run away is just fucking glorious.
Yeah.
I mean, I get how that can be fun, but if somebody is spending time
I
doing
agree. It's
something-
super aggravating. Don't get me wrong. When it happens to me, I'm going to be pissed.
yeah,
But-
it's
I like the fact that brings a new level of realism to it. The idea that somebody can run in there, take out their knife, and cut your shit off if you're not paying attention, that's real life, man.
That's some fucked up shit, but it's actually true.
to me, it's not and that's not worth it to me to go into the Dark Zone. I'm not going to spend my time if somebody's going to do that to me, or that's a potential. Also, on top of that, let's say, for example, I went into the Dark Zone with some buddies, and there's nobody there because the servers are garbage. We are literally running the exact same path over and over and over and over and over just to get good, high-quality stuff.
Yeah.
That I had little interest in doing that. It was very boring to me. And this is on top of me having already gone around the entire city collecting, or doing the little side missions and collecting bullshit along the way. And the only reason I was collecting bullshit was because it added to the world. It was kind of like collecting Ghosts in Destiny, but in game. Everything was in the game. I could just stop and listen to it all if I wanted to. Didn't have to go to fucking Bungie.net. I think the game itself would have been better if Dark Zone didn't exist. And that's because that's its multiplayer thing. or if the Dark Zone did exist, it wasn't the only multiplayer thing. See what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, that's...
I definitely agree with that. If they had something else, like maybe you could toggle PvP and PvE on and off in the Dark Zone, like you decided before you went in, do I want a PvP or PvE? That'd be really cool. You could still have that dynamic of people running around the Dark Zone. You're still able to at least kind of interact with people, and you're still able to get that gear that you can find in there. And then have like a freaking team deathmatch mode or a capture the flag mode. Or capture the flag mode seems like it would fit really, really well with the Division, in my opinion. But I mean,
just real quick, not to interrupt you, but shut up, Slabby. Yeah, I guess I agree. I mean, like, there was just a lot of stuff that really bothered me about what they wanted to do with the multiplayer aspect, and I kind of wish with Division that, because one of my favorite things about the Division, one of the things I thought was really, really cool, is that, let's say I want to go back and play a mission on a harder difficulty, right? I can matchmake that shit. That's amazing. I love that. Absolutely adore that. If the matchmaking is there, why limit it to a location where I don't ever want to go, where half of the player base doesn't want to go? You see what I'm saying? Like, why? Why is that? Why does that exist? It just doesn't. I don't know.
Yeah, like I feel like the Dark Zone was a good idea, but implemented badly.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes.
Like the Dark Zone should have been something more similar to like a raid environment. I think, where you can go in there and or maybe like it becomes like an instant or something like that, where you can go in there, fight bosses, things like that. And with the Dark Zone, maybe allow them to like, okay, well, here we're just going to put a bunch of different ones in different areas, and like they're going to be different every couple of hours or every hour or every day. Like, we're going to switch it up, and whatever entry you go into is going to dictate what instance or raid you're going to be.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would have been a better use of the Dark Zone.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Like, I you know what I think would have been a really cool thing to do with the Dark Zone? Let's say you go into the Dark Zone, right? And you just want to find high-level gear. So you start fighting... Because there was also levels of Dark Zone. Like, the lower part of where it started was the low-end version. And then if you go to the very top, it's like the hardest characters you could possibly find in the game.
And there was no point to go higher.
Well, yeah, pretty much. So each level of the Dark Zone had, like, you could go into a multiplayer match. Like, that would be cool. Like, you get to the extraction zone, right? And there's two things that you can do. Call for extraction for the shit you've collected, and then that happens automatically. That just happens instantly. And then there was a different option where if you hold down, like, I don't know, circle/B, or T on your keypad. That's a joke. You call down like a helicopter to take you to an arena, you know, like a place where it becomes a standard multiplayer game. And to me, that just would have been a better use of my time in the Dark Zone. I don't know. I'm just trying to come up with ideas that they could have done that would have been...
Yeah.
I mean, we can sit here all day and kind of spin ideas out, but in the end, it is what it is.
Yeah.
In the end of the day, I'm glad that people who are enjoying the Division is still playing it or getting extra content. I just don't feel like it's going to do that well. That's all.
Yeah, I hear you. We'll see how it goes in due time. The next games that were showing off, and this was their VR block. They had 2 VR games that were showing out. The first game was called Eagle Flight.
Yeah, I couldn't remember the name of it, so I literally called it Bird CTF in my notes. I could not for the life of me remember what the name was.
So basically, in the game, when you put the VR headset on, you are this eagle, and it's basically a team-based game where you and a bunch of eagles are trying to capture an orb or a flag, pretty much. And
It
you're
looks really fucking cool.
and you're shooting other eagles with like this bubble spear that you're kind of shooting with them with. It felt like very tech demo-ish.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, like they showed it off, and it was interesting. I think that turning it into an esport thing, I don't know. It's weird. I don't think it would need it per se, but that was one of the things to show off for VR. The next thing though is I'm not going to play it. I respect that the fact that it exists, and it'd be cool to see other people play it. But specifically, what I'm talking about is the Star Trek Bridge Crew VR game.
Oh, okay. So I'm gonna gush.
I kind of want to
motherfucker.
throw something heavy at your head right now.
What, my head or Ramen?
His head.
Or not Ramen, but Anthony. Okay, yeah. Because that fucking thing next to Fractured Butthole was the goddamn highlight of the fucking thing. That is rad. Like,
Right?
yes, it is the nerdiest, geekiest, dorkiest thing ever. But man, to sit there in the same room and have a goddamn headset on, which you're looking at the bridge of a fucking starship, and you're communicating with lingo with it. Oh my god, that's cool.
Right.
Oh
Now,
my god, that's fucking.
I want to kind of jump in and remember that there is a like a Starship Bridge simulator one. I think it's like Artemis, where like you can play and you can be like the captain, the helmsman, the science officer, communications, engineering, and weapons control, and you play on the computer. But it's not that VR. It's not going to give you that same feel. And let's be honest, if you grew up as a nerd, you probably watched Star Trek at some point. And if you didn't, you should shut the fuck up and get the hell out of here right now. What is more cool than the idea of, like, you know what? I'm going to sit down with Patrick Stewart and I'm going to go be the fucking helmsman for Picard. Like, that idea right there is so awesome.
It's so rad. It's so rad. And the fact that, like, you have LeVar Burton come out and he's like,
that was cool. That was pretty
the graphics aren't 100%, but the game is amazing, so who the fuck cares? You know, like that. Oh, man.
Like, he said that outright. He's like, the graphics, meh, but you're going to fucking love this game.
Yeah. It was so good. Like, oh my god. Like, honestly, I really hope that the fucking price of VR comes down, because getting 4 of those and sitting in the same room with some buddies would be the goddamn greatest. Like, I hope one day that Half Empty can do that.
What I really hope, though, is this was specifically for the Oculus Rift. That's what they specifically named.
Yes.
And this is the thing that I'm worried about with a VR, because right now we have 2 leaders in VR. We have Oculus Rift and we have HTC Vive. I wish to God that the 2 would actually go like, you know what, we can do some cross-platform stuff. So you could have somebody on the Vive and you could have somebody on the Oculus Rift and you could still play together. That way, if this actually does catch on and become a thing, you don't have to worry about buying the same things that your friends have.
Right. Yeah, I completely agree. I hope it's not limited in that way.
The thing about it too is, like, you know, at least with the VR systems right now, is that right now it's more or less they definitely want to keep it separate. They still want to have their exclusives to their VR sets they can sell more. And it's just the first year of VR that we're actually going to see, like, what the market's going to say, how hard they're going to sell and whatnot. With that being said, I like the fact that there's a Star Trek VR game that exists. I personally won't play it. I think it's cool to see people get excited for it. And, you know, don't get me wrong, like, sitting in the captain's chair telling, you know, a friend of mine, like, you know, warp 2, you know, or have somebody, like, make sure to put up the shields for the ship. It's awesome.
Well, I like to get a group of people, Anthony, and this just popped into my head. I like to get a group of people who don't know much about Star Trek, and they're just like, make us go faster. You got it. Okay, go fast. Go up, and then the person's like, somebody's shooting at us. Just stop them. Don't
Guys,
shoot it back.
Guys, I want to bring your attention to one thing, though, by the way. This is literally the closest step we've ever had to the holodeck.
Yes, agreed.
I mean, literally, we have a VR game for Star Trek. I don't think we can get much closer until we actually have the holodeck.
Now that you say it out loud.
Yeah, it's the closest thing we have to the holodeck.
Like, this is as close as we could possibly get at the current time until we figure out how we're actually going to, like, build a force field and make that force field contain photons to make a picture.
Yes. But I enjoyed the whole thing. I think it's really cool. I would like to see more of this. Hopefully in future events, but it's a cool thing to have and cool thing to see.
So you're not as excited clearly as Alex and I.
No,
It sucks that he's not a real nerd.
no, it's not that I'm.
Well, my question is are you not that big of a fan of Star Trek, or do you just not think this idea is that cool?
I'm not. I don't think this idea is. I don't think the idea of this is actually more fun than what it made it look at the press conference. I enjoy Star Trek. I watch a lot some of it, and I get the excitement for you get to be on the bridge and you get to be with other crewmates to operate the ship and make sure that everything's all right. But like to me you would be I don't see the fun of like being one of the crewmates and like literally looking down and then as you saw in the press conference like one of them was looking down pushing buttons to make sure that the shields are up or say we need to change the speed so one of them is pushing buttons and turning up the speed. Like I don't see that as fun. And you're looking at this and you're in a VR which is a screen, but then you're also looking at the front screen at the same time. So you look at the screen within a screen to make sure that things are fine. So
well, one of the things I just thought of, and it kind of goes with what you're saying, Anthony, is that when because clearly the four positions they were playing was engineer,
tactical,
and the driver part, the one that controls the speed.
helms.
Helms, thank you, and then captain. There's two other positions. There's the science officer and the medical officer, and they're not facing. They're facing away from the giant viewfinder on the bridge. So could you imagine if you were the science officer and you're just staring at a bunch of screens you don't understand? Man. I could totally
You just see like if you've ever watched Star Trek, you know that they throw things up there that sound like legitimate science, but you're not 100% sure about it.
That pseudo fake science.
So can you imagine though, like being the science officer, just seeing like these random things thrown up there, and you're not even 100% sure how to pronounce it, and if you do get the pronunciation right, what does it actually mean?
Yeah, definitely. But,
man.
Here's a question. I got a hypothetical for you, Anthony.
Okay.
Do you think that this would be more interesting if, say, they introduced like a possible player versus player or mission type deal to it, so that you're not just like flying it around, you're actually going on missions, or you're actually getting into battles with other people?
Yes. If there was a player versus player element, if you and your four people were operating the ship and you're fighting against another four other people online or nearby, that would be cool. I'll be down for that. If they had a single player component, I'm not quite sure if I would be, it'd be cool to have.
I honestly don't know if this could be single player. I'm going to say that right now.
The only way I could think it'd be single player is if you play captain.
Yeah.
Right? Like you have to be the captain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do like the idea if it's a multiplayer game in terms of like you playing against other people. That is what I would say. Okay, that's cool.
Okay. Here we go. We got a perfect example of what I was talking about from Slappy Meats. We need more Sicilian quarksicles in the flux modulation regulator. That sounds like it could be a thing on Star Trek, and it almost sounds like science. But at the same time, I'm pretty. What the hell is that?
I like how it also is flux modulation regulator.
Right?
Maybe. Well, and on that note, that's kind of the joke. One of the big jokes that Galaxy Quest makes all the time, or throughout the entire movie. But to kind of further the thing is I kind of understand what you're talking about, Anthony, with that whole aspect. That being said, though, trying to, you're looking at a giant viewfinder, and I'm sure that there is information being thrown at somebody that you can, working as a team would be really cool because you're the only one that can see what's wrong. So let's say you're the engineer, right? You're the only one that can see how well the engines are doing. You're the only one that knows that, so you have to kind of communicate that. Mm-hmm. And then it becomes a strategy game. Like there's a game out right now that does that, where every member of a ship has control over certain aspects, and they have to communicate what's going on. Like there's a navigator, and only the navigator can really tell you where you're going. And there's just a lot of stuff like that that I would like to see in a VR Star Trek game, which is what they showed. So I get where you're coming from, but at the same time, there's an excitement of doing that with a team.
Yeah,
Where
definitely.
you have to,
I wanna
you have
agree
to.
and disagree with you on that one. I think that the role of captain should, because I mean, if you ever watch like Enterprise, he has those like the displays right there that he can look at. I feel like the captain should have a limited overview of everything so that he can kind of tell what's going on, so he can kind of bring attention to like engineering or to tactical about this or that, but not have a complete view so he can be like, what's the status of the engines, and he actually has to ask what the actual status is.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, like I think it's a cool idea. If there's a multiplayer aspect attached to this, I would be down to play it. It also comes to another, thing of like, again, VR is a new thing that the game industry is taking a chance on, seeing how it goes. Right now, it's not at a price where people can buy it off the street market.
No, that's
Yeah,
the biggest.
that
that's
is
the
very
biggest
true. Like,
hurdle.
if you want to play this game when it comes out, you have to be like the most hardcore
Yeah,
Star
yeah.
Trek fan, and you have to have a steady source of income.
Yeah, definitely. So in due time, we'll see how
or
this
have
develops.
or have other friends that have the ability to play. I hope that there's
Or
there's
just be
internet
friends
play
with
with it,
Patrick Stewart. I'm sure he's going to get it for free.
too. Well, actually, that's a joke that I was reading on Twitter. Is I follow a lot of the guys from Rooster Teeth, and Mika Burton, his daughter, is now a member of Achievement Hunter. And when Jack Patillo, who was at that conference, he got invited out because he's a big fan of Assassin's Creed and constantly supports Ubisoft and all that jazz. They straight up invited him out, including Mika Burton, because her dad was in the fucking conference. And he made a comment about how he would love to check that out, and she just tweets back at him like, "Yeah, I'm sure I could get some advanced copies." I was like,
Right?
"Oh."
It was like, what the fuck?
But yeah, in due time, we'll see how it goes with that game. The next game they did show briefly was a short teaser trailer for the sequel to Grow Home called Grow Up. The red robot person you controlled in this kind of big island. Apparently, in the teaser trailer, you go up to the moon. So I didn't really play much of Grow Home. I played a little bit. It's a very interesting concept, and I've seen some people play it online. Having it going to the moon, that's a cool thing.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's a cool idea, but yeah.
I'm going to tell you right now, I got nothing on this one. I totally tuned this one out.
Right.
I had no interest.
It was pretty short to begin with, so there wasn't really much to go off of. Just saying like, hey, it exists. It's gonna be a sequel. But this is where it got interesting. So it went from that into these two guys in like, they had like big beards. They were wearing some sort of like bacon-esque like outfit, and they were like coming out like in a WWE fashion. You had just like fire on the screens, and like they were just like going through the crowds, like high-fiving people. And this was
They were even announced as a tag team.
Yeah, it's a tag team. One of them said that he was the king of Finland, or the president of Finland at one point.
Some shit. Yeah, some shit like that.
And basically, this was all just a build-up saying like, this is a new game. It's Trials of the Blood Dragon. It's basically the Trials game, the motorcycle game, but in the world of Blood Dragon. And it's the way that it's so set up is very funny. It's like 80s cartoon, like the way that it was back then and how it was animated. But like that's the entire theme of the game. So like you're going through like ridiculous jumps that like only in the 80s movie would show, or like.
Well, can I ask you this? Did you ever play Blood Dragon?
I have.
Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, then it's that ridiculousness on top of the already fucking Trials ridiculousness.
Oh yeah, it's like
I already bought it. I literally, as soon as they announced it, I went onto my phone,
that's right.
went to the Xbox app, and I bought it.
That's right. I forgot that. Yeah. So when this announcement was made, it was literally like they said, like after this press conference is over, it is out now. You can go buy it. You can have it for your to go play. So
I'm gonna stream it on Half Empty, probably Thursday, Friday, and or Saturday.
Sick, awesome. Definitely check it out on twitch.tv/HEET. Oh
No, that's full on Half Empty Energy Tank.
yeah.
Or I'll put it in the chat for anyone who
Go
gives
for
a
it.
shite.
Go for it. But no, it was hilarious. I like that. That was really funny. And then what was it I'm missing? I know. Okay, so in between all these games, I know the game I was looking forward to the most actually at this press conference was For Honor, and man, the game looks so good. For Honor, for those who don't know, it is like, think of Dynasty Warriors with a fighting game mechanic in it, in a sense that
I think it's more like Dynasty Warriors with chivalry thrown in.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say like the smaller guys are definitely not as big of a threat, but it goes from like pseudo Dynasty Warriors. I'd say more in the realm of what. Oh my God, there was an early Xbox One title where you play as a Spartan soldier or something like that, a Greek soldier.
Oh, Rise.
What's that called?
Rise.
Rise.
Yeah.
It looked like it played like Rise until it got to when you go to one-on-one combat, and the one-on-one combat was. It kind of reminded me of a little bit of Dark Souls, in that you have to kind of parry what the person's doing, and you have to kind of wait for your window to break their defense to actually do any damage. It looked like there was also 3 stances you could hold your weapon, which was like hold the axe handle to the right, hold the axe handle to the left, or like kind of above your head a little bit.
Yeah.
And you had to parry and figure out what your opponent was doing instead of just mashing X or whatever the attack button is.
Yeah, definitely.
Which I thought was really neat. And it looks like that when you're also in like one-on-one mode, nobody else is going to attack you.
Yeah, the cool thing about it is like, I feel like it takes a realism, or it takes that kind of that step toward realism in the fact that like these battles, like with these one-on-ones, they're actually not that long. They're pretty short. Like, and you get a couple good hits in, the guy's dead.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that direction where it's going to, and I'm definitely liking what they've shown so far. Right now it's only like 3 classes they have shown so far: the Viking, the Samurai, and the Knight. But they recently announced like another one. I forgot the name of what it was. It looked like kind of like a pseudo like. It kind of looked like somebody like out of Dragon Age, like leather kind of armor she was wearing.
I thought that was just for story purposes, and that's straight up the God of War.
Yeah, it may be
a version of God of War.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. Man, it was really good. I like the setting. I like the direction they're going with this. I'm definitely very, very excited for Honor, and I believe the announcement was it's coming out next year on the 14th of 2017, the same day as Persona 5. So yeah, that's gonna be a tough decision on my part.
Yeah, I mean, one thing to also remember too is that if you're not sure about the game, go sign up for the alpha.
That's right.
Just go fucking do it
yes.
right now. I
yeah.
actually personally just did that myself.
that right now.
I'm really interested to see this game. I'm a huge fan of Warriors.
Put the thing in the chat, if you will.
Yes,
the link.
please.
Give me one second.
For those who want to check out the alpha, after this stream is over, I am going to sign up for that game. I'll be first in line for that.
I'm curious if it's on all consoles or just PC.
It's everything. I checked. They actually give you, when you sign up for it, they'll ask you what your console preference is. PC, Xbox, PlayStation.
Sick. Awesome.
There you go. It's in the chat now.
Thank you. Sweet.
Yep.
Awesome. But
I would urge you to the bottom of my heart, like, if you have any interest whatsoever, even a vague interest, go sign up. The worst is that you don't get in and you have to wait until somebody live streams it or something like that. Go check this out on an alpha or a beta, wherever they decide to let you in at, and see if it's for you. Because this is a great idea. I love these types of games. We don't see enough of these types of games.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I did with Overwatch. I was like, people like it, but I'm not going to rush to do anything about it until I play it, and then I did, and I was like, well, this is my new favorite thing ever, and there's that. But I completely agree. It's what are you gonna lose, really?
Yeah, definitely. It doesn't cost you a damn thing. So they showed up two more games and then a movie tie-in. They took a long segment on the
Give me
Watch.
one sec. I got a question in there. Someone's saying they don't see the beta registration on the website. If you go to the website, right underneath the black banner up the top, it says register here for alpha, beta, exclusive rewards, and updates. When you click there, it'll actually take you to the login page for your Uplay account. If you don't have one, you can go ahead and make one directly from that page. That's where you actually sign up.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Alex. So they took a long segment on Watch Dogs 2. Showed off a lot of the gameplay. They showed up a mission as far as like what the main character can go through, using different hacking abilities and going through San Francisco, which I still find kind of weird that it's in San Francisco because I go there every once in a while and I know exactly where they are. But like yeah, they showed off Watch Dogs 2. Definitely still keeping on that. You're a hacker. You're a very smart kid, and you're just kind of going in and disrupting shit as much as you can, depending on take down the man per se. Use drones. You use different ways to hack different buildings. In this mission, you use a drone to like hack like whatever you need to get information out of. The funny thing is like that thing was making a lot of noise. That RC little driver, that little car, was making a lot of noise that was extracting whatever it was, like right like in front of like whoever was in that same area. I was like, don't they not notice this the entire time?
Yeah, that's. I was thinking the same thing. But then again, that's kind of the same complaint I had about Wildlands. So.
Well, wait, time out. To be fair on that one, if it has a microphone on it, which is the only reasonable way you're going to actually hear that thing if it's driving away from you, the only explanation would be the Microsoft, what the hell? The microphone is actually mounted to the chassis of the unit. Because as you saw it, there was like no visible microphone. So it had to be mounted somewhere to the chassis directly. If it's mounted to the chassis directly, you're going to get a lot of random sounds. You're going to get that whirring sound from gears and stuff because that sound, even if it's quiet, is going to travel through the actual body of the machine. So I can kind of understand why it sounds loud if we're going with like you can hear other things, but unfortunately, once again, as we see with so many of these trailers and these gameplay footages, we don't have quite enough information to actually make that full conclusion. I'm kind of just jumping to a conclusion here from what seems reasonable.
Yeah, true. I mean, it's video games, so like nothing really needs to make sense as long as it works. But yeah, they showed it off. What I got out of Watch Dogs 2 in this presentation was just like it felt GTA-ish, like even to the point where like the last trailer they showed up before they switch up to the next game had that GTA vibe to it, and definitely emphasizing on the open world. On like you can do not only can you do the main mission, but you can do these other things as well in San Francisco. If you want to hack a car, you can go get into a car and hack it. If you want to go and I don't know, pet a dog, you can do that as well. It felt like they're kind of going off of that direction this time around in the last game. So it's very interesting. I'm still on the fence about the game. I honestly don't. A part of me wants to play, but part of me is still on the fence. Like I don't know if I'm really that interested into it. I'm not sure what exactly it may be. The story's not great, or what they're conveying, or maybe just the way that they're looking to feel the game. I'm not quite sure myself, but Watch Dogs 2 is something that they are going head on onto, and we'll have to wait and see how that goes for sure. But yeah, Watch Dogs 2. Oh, and there's apparently some film that's going to happen with the game, and then also like there's if you pre-order we get a robot. So yeah, there's that as well.
So I'm a little hesitant to say that Watch Dogs 2 is going to be a good game because if you have any experience with the original ones, there was so much promise. It looked so good. It was amazing. And just like with The Division, it just totally failed to deliver on pretty much anything that it was offering, which seems to be kind of a trend that Ubisoft is starting to form with these new IPs that they try to launch. They look so great, they look so awesome, and then they just kind of flop once they're actually out.
Yeah.
So I mean, maybe they've gone back in, they've tweaked it, maybe they've, kind of reset what the expectation should be. It looks like it's a lot more centered around the idea that it's more GTA style, with like You have the open world, and then you kind of go to missions around the place, things like that. But I still worried about some of the flaws that were just in the game to begin with. Like I know players who were unable to get past certain parts of the game because the game just would not load past that point.
Mm-hmm.
So I really worry about what Watch Dogs 2 is actually going to bring to the table.
Yeah, it definitely, and especially like, you know, and one of the big things that went wrong with it was, I won't say it was wrong, but like people pointed out was like, you know, they compared the trailer of the original Watch Dogs to what it actually was. The graphics were not that great.
Oh yeah, and Ubisoft had to answer for that. It was point blank, and they actually did respond to those criticisms and explain or try to explain them away. So yeah, that was definitely a legitimate claim that kind of showed where Ubisoft failed to deliver on what they were promising.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. But yeah, we'll definitely see how it goes. I believe, was there a release date for Watch Dogs 2?
Yes, Watch Dogs will be 9/15/2016.
Okay, so this year. All right.
So this year, later this year, in November. So,
Alright.
no, September.
September is going to be a packed month. Jesus.
Yeah, I don't know why they seem to have stacked a ton of things into September, which I don't understand. Maybe I got that one wrong. Maybe it is November. If somebody in the chat can call that out, if they remember exactly what month it is, that'd be great. But from what I remember, it is September, and it just seems really weird that they're stacking so much into that one month.
September. Yeah, I mean, like in general, fall and like spring are like usually the two like big areas in the calendar year that is always stacked with a lot of games.
I agree, but like they usually take that that time before Christmas to kind of spread it out more. Whereas this year we're seeing everything stacked straight into September, and everyone's going like, "Fuck it, we don't care anymore."
Oh my god, I do not envy those who had to review games back to back in September. But yeah, we'll wait and see how that goes. And then the next game the last game they showed off, aside from showing off like the Assassin's Creed movie trailer, along with like, you know, some conversation with the director.
We don't care about the movie trailer. Fuck it.
Yeah,
It's gonna be terrible, just like the games.
Yeah. We'll wait.
I'm sorry. I was reading something while you guys were talking about Watch Dogs, and I totally missed the transition. What game?
We're moving into Steep.
Yes.
The new extreme sports game that Ubisoft is going to be bringing to the table.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Steep was the last game to be revealed. New IP from Ubisoft. And the interesting thing about it is we don't see these type of games as often. Like back in the day, it was a bunch of them. But like nowadays, we don't see these type of games come out as much. And Steep you're snowboarding, you're skiing, it's kind of like, you know, whatever you want to do in this like a snow climate in the mountains, and like you have races against, you know, the other people, and people use other types of methods of getting down the hill. Either you can glide, you can, you know, again, snowboarding or skiing or other methods. They're in this one in one of the races that this guy had was like he was skiing down the mountain, and then the guy next to him was gliding, and like as he was gliding, he hits like the corner of like the rock, like right as he's trying to turn.
He just eats shit.
Yeah.
That was great.
Like in the first thing that came to mind is like, holy shit, is that guy dead? And I looked at
Well, that was actually something funny that I kind of tweeted out after the event was over.
Mm-hmm.
After watching that footage, I was like, I want all the sound effects from Eagle Flight and Steep to come out. So it's just Caw! Caw! Bone breaking, Caw!
Yeah.
Please tell me that this is going to be something we can actually do. Like, to get the sound pack from that, plus put it into Steep, and just kind of mix and match the audio files as we see fit would be amazing.
I think that one of the impressive things about it is like one of the camera angles was like as if it was on a GoPro. And like when you're in this view, like you see your arms and your legs, and whatever you do, like if you're flipping, your entire camera is flipping as if you are doing so in the air, alongside, you know, making your traversal through the mountain. It's a really interesting game. I think that you know, games like these don't come out nowadays, and Steep is interesting to say the least. One of the things that kind of, I won't say that they nailed pretty well is like when you when you crash, like when you wipe out, like the sound of bone breaking is really good for some odd reason in this game. Like when you wipe out and one of the characters, like you can hear just the bone crack. It's like, oh wow.
So I want to make a complaint here, and it's going to be kind of nitpicky, I think, but I don't like the fact that they specifically said that it was a GoPro camera. That kind of pissed me off, because what they actually showed was a first-person view, which we have had for decades. Why would you suddenly be like, oh, well, it's a GoPro just because it's a fucking action game, like an extreme sports game? Come on, man.
Well, because
Don't pander to that. Don't do like the name drop of like maybe somebody you developed this game and they provided money for. Come on.
well, if you saw in the trailer, there was a guy literally behind one of the other characters, and they were flying in with the, what do you call it, the parachute, as they're going in, and like it had GoPro on the top of it. So there might be
I did not notice like the little camera on him or anything. Like,
yeah, there's definitely some GoPro advertisement in this game. So it might be the reason why they kind of refer to it as that. But yeah, outside of that, that's like the Ubisoft press conference. Before
I want to talk about a couple things to do with Steep real quick. Let's not just jump away from it. I want to hit a few points.
All right.
One of the really cool things I noticed was this game is literally, as you're going around the mountain, you can just run into random people. That's really cool. I like that open world on the mountain. Like, that's actually how it would be. If you're up there on the mountain and you happen to run into some guy snowboarding, yeah, you can snowboard together if you want to, or you can go turn off the path and go somewhere else. That's super awesome. I also like the fact that they actually gave you the ability to like see how difficult like what you just did is. Like at the very end where they had the guy in skis go out that giant cliff face and just do flips down it and land it. And then he could go back into like the instant review and he could actually see himself do it from different angles, and then actually see how difficult that like whole transition was. And if you noticed, it said legendary or legend or something like that. And then to take it a step further, they're like, okay, that's awesome, but wait, there's more. You can actually take this, save it as a challenge, throw it out into the universe for your friends to try and beat or compete with you. Yeah. That was such a cool little tidbit that you could actually do, because that means like if I get this like sick trick off a cliff, hit the roof of a house, go down the house, blow through some trees, and I manage to stick the landing through the entire thing, I can then save that replay, upload it to YouTube, wherever I want to put it, and then I can challenge my friends to try and beat that.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of good stuff that's in Steep that they're showcasing. And that game was actually coming out this year, I believe. December.
I think so. I'd have to double check. But like, not only that too, but I like the fact that you can switch your sport on the fly. So like, say you've been doing the skiing for a while, and you're like, okay, I'm bored of skiing. I want to do snowboarding. Well, now you can do snowboarding all of a sudden. That's really cool. You don't have to go into an extra load or anything like that. You just have to come to a complete stop and then switch your sport. Really nice that you don't have to like have this worrisome load screen for it. Also, the fact that you can move around the mountain at will, you don't have to like kind of go to certain points and then go up, is nice, because it gives you that ability of like, okay, shit, well, I didn't hit that spot that I really wanted to do. Let me go back up to where I started and see how I can get down there to where I want to go.
Yeah, definitely. It reminds me a lot of SSX3, where like it really opened up the open world game where like you can like literally, if you want to go like in a distance like that mountain, like you can, or you know, if you want to go and create your own path or your own race, you can do that as well. But I definitely like the open worldness of this game, and it definitely.
And it doesn't look like they. Sorry to interrupt you, but it doesn't look like they have an official release date set in stone. It's just winter of this year.
Ah, gotcha. Okay. We'll probably find some more information as they.
And you can go to steepgame.com and sign up for the beta, right, in case you're interested.
Yes. That's a beta. Is that for what console, or what is that for everything?
You can pick your console: PlayStation 4, Xbox One, or PC.
Gotcha.
Personally,
Sweet.
I personally would suggest like an Xbox One or a PlayStation 4, just because sports games, in my opinion, traditionally don't translate very well to a keyboard and mouse. But that's me.
Yep. Definitely. So, before I give we give our final thoughts on Ubisoft, I'm gonna go first on this. So in previous press conferences, we've been given our grades for what we thought of the press conferences. For me, the Ubisoft press conference, the pacing was weird. Pacing has never been Ubisoft's strong suit to begin with, but they definitely showed off a lot of games that were very interesting. One of them I took a real interest into in For Honor, and really excited for that game myself. What they showed, a bunch of trailers, a bunch of gameplay, very well balanced in terms of like what they showed off. And of course, Aisha Taylor, for love it or hate it, she definitely is somebody that's going to be hosting year after year until they find somebody else the Ubisoft press conference, and take it for what it's worth for her comedy and whatnot. But personally, I think that I'm going to give the Ubisoft press conference, I give it a solid B. I think it was pretty strong. I think it was pretty strong. I think that they showed a lot of new IPs, but also showed a few of the old that they're continues to support, but showing more content down the road. And I felt like they definitely had a pretty balanced press conference, but with its Ubisoft quirkiness as usual. So B for me. Greg, your grade for the Ubisoft press conference?
After having, like I've seen them do this for the past few years, and everything that they've done, it's always been kind of strange and weird. And this year was down to the nitty gritty. It was about the games. It was about showing us the games. It was about announcing new games, and it was about showing us gameplay for these games, which we talked about gameplay yesterday. And they seem to not care about stupid peripherals or stupid things that just didn't matter. Now, granted, I'm not 100% sold on Steep, but I imagine a bunch of people are, because they showed what the game was going to be like. So I'm going to give them a B+. It wasn't super awkward. Like, there wasn't moments where I was just like,
That's true.
And I actually kind of thought the two guys coming out announcing Trials of the Blood Dragon was, in a sense, adorable, just because it was silly and fun and over the top. And then you have LeVar Burton come out and just gush about a game, and he's one of the most honest people on the planet. You know that he wasn't bought, and at least I hope so. So to me, it was just that they did so much correct. Now there was somebody that I know personally who's in the chat right now watching, Hutch. He'd probably give it a less than a B. Probably give it a C because they didn't announce Beyond Good and Evil 2. But I don't care about that game because I never played it.
Blasphemy.
Yeah, well, I have it too. It's part of the rare replay pack.
Mm-hmm.
I just haven't played it. But anyway, so the point is that they did a really good job this year of showing a bunch of stuff, and it was the only conference so far where I literally went out and was like, I'm buying that game right now. Period. No ifs, ands, or buts. So.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Awesome.
B+.
So Alex, your thoughts and grade if possible on the Ubisoft press conference?
I am personally going to give 2 grades to this. I am going to agree with Black Space Johnson in the chat. LeVar Burton gets an A+. Gets an A.
Yeah.
He gets an A all by himself. That man has been throughout my entire childhood. I mean, Star Trek Enterprise, when I used to watch it with my mother and my grandmother, to Reading Rainbow, for God's sake.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't remember Reading Rainbow, go check it out. He's still doing amazing things with Reading Rainbow. Shout out to him for all of the work he's done for helping kids become literate. But as far as the conference itself, I'm probably going to have to go with like a B-. Some of the things that stood out to me is, yeah, the pacing is weird. It's always weird, like you said, but that's not something they shouldn't be able to fix. This is a huge thing. They should be able to fix their pacing so it doesn't feel so damn weird. I'm taking points off for Just Dance because I'm fucking tired of that game. That's it. I'm just done with it. I don't care anymore. I'm taking points off because you brought it out again. I don't care if you didn't actually talk about the game. Fuck you.
That's a good point. They didn't even talk about it.
Like, they didn't talk about the game other than they, like, flash, like, hashtag Just Dance 2017. and they said, let's bring the dancers out again. And that's about all they said for like what it actually was about,
Yeah.
which I kind of like, but at the same time, stop bringing it up. Please let it die. We're all sick and tired of it. I really like the fact that they did show Ghost Recon Wildlands gameplay. I wish that they had gone a little bit more in depth into like some of the decisions that they were making with like weapon selection, because I know some of the ones that they've released in the past when they did these press conferences were, well, you can customize your weapons like this. We're gonna, here's all of our plans, type of thing. And I really wish, I mean, maybe it's not to that level yet where they're not ready to do it, but I wish that it had been there. It would have been so nice to be able to actually see some of the more in-depth detail stuff. Honestly, I think the two, like Greg said earlier, the two that saved the entire thing for me and probably saved it from being like a C is the Fractured Butthole and the Oculus Rift Star Trek. Those two were amazing. I'm so glad to see that somebody has decided to put together 1 and 1 to make 2, and Star Trek is now on a VR system. And then, honestly, one of the major down points, too, that I saw, and I'll go to one last bright point, too, is Watch Dogs 2. It feels like it's the same game repackaged with lowered expectations. I can't get over that fact, and I'm super cautious about actually considering getting that game because of it. And I would hesitate to tell people not to buy something. If you like Watch Dogs, God help you, but go ahead and go buy a Watch Dogs 2. And, maybe it'll be better than the first one. I mean, it can't be much worse, let's be honest. And then the last bright point I saw, which was like a truly bright point, Steep. It's been so long since we've seen a new sports game, let alone a new sports game that looks so amazing, that I'm super excited for this. One of my friends told me like immediately after the conference that while he hates sports games, he has never bought a sports game in his entire life. Steep actually made him want to go out and get a sports game. And that alone should tell you something with how awesome this game actually looks and what kind of potential it has to bring new fans to a genre that has gone stagnant for a long time.
Awesome. Very, very well said. So that's gonna do it for us. I mean, I would talk about the PC press conference, but like I'll talk about that another time. But what I will say though is thank you guys for coming by. So what's going to happen now is that we're going to end the stream right now. We'll come back to pregame the Sony press conference, which is going to be around 7 o'clock tonight, is it? Or 6 is the Sony press conference?
That is a good question.
Hang on, I got the picture right here actually. 6 o'clock is the Sony press conference. So, okay, what we plan to do, we'll end the stream. We'll come back on at 5 p.m. is when we're gonna have
I'm gonna stop you right there. 5 p.m.'s like 7 minutes.
Oh shit. Okay.
Let's do 5:30.
Yeah, 5:30. Yeah, 5:30.
Because I need food.
yes. I need to.
Same here.
I need to get stuff ready myself.
Sorry, guys. We'd love to just sit here and entertain you forever, but we have to eat eventually, or we will die.
Yeah, definitely. So what we do, we're end the stream. We're gonna come back at 5:30 to talk about our predictions about the Sony press conference, and then once the Sony press conference starts, we're gonna end the stream, host the channel so that you guys don't have to go anywhere, and then once the stream is over, we're unhost. We go back online and we give our reactions. Again, if you missed out on the streams that we've been doing for the past day, they're on our YouTube channel as well as going to be on our podcast internet as well. So on iTunes and Stitcher. So there are plenty of ways to find out all our footage.
This is all, by the way, Eastern or Pacific time?
Yes,
Pacific.
Fuck you, Eastern people. We don't like you. Actually, I just don't like your time zone.
Right. So with that being said, thanks guys. We'll be back in a little bit to talk about the Sony PlayStation conference, and we'll see you guys then.